Hi Phoebe, how you doing? Let's go ahead and take a look. I was looking to see if you had any written rationale or questions or anything accompanying your submission. And I don't see anything here, so let's go right to the composition. All right, I've got it up right here. Excuse me. I think the first thing we can see is that the dimensions of the document are not as required. Um, in the requirements as we go over here to week 4 assignment 4 part 1 type and image relationships design in everyday life first iteration. We've got the instructions over here. If you come down to the design requirements, we see this poster should be 7 by 15 or 15 by 7. Right now you're set up at 8.5 by 11, as we can see in the PDF. You're at 11 by 8.5, 11 width, 8.5 height. So remember to adhere to the requirements in the um, and the assignment page. Okay, so let's go through the rest of the requirements and see what we have. So your selected image must be dominant, make it big, or crop part of it. You don't want to necessarily need to see all of it to communicate what it is. And what, it's big, but it's placed dead center. And one thing we've learned think of the rule of thirds, right? And the rule of thirds dictates that dead center is definitely not the place you want to use to create a focal point, because it's much more interesting placing something off center than center. So think about the rule of thirds as it pertains to interest in the composition. Okay, poster must include an image of the object in use. Take a picture of someone using it or interacting with it. We don't see that. I don't see anybody interacting with this. I mean, you want to show somebody actually using this coffee machine. Poster must include one image that results from the use of your object. So I would say an image that results would be an image of somebody enjoying a cup of coffee. Okay, so you want to make sure that you include that. Your poster must include two components from the object. So we don't I mean, you're not really showing any components. I guess the coffee filter could be considered to be a component, and I guess the coffee beans could be considered to be a component. But I want to address that in 1 second here, the repetition of the coffee beans. As soon as I'm done going through the requirements. Poster must include one paragraph of text that describes why this object or artifact means to you. Okay, got that. The everyday life, got that. And your caption. This isn't really a caption. We don't know what image this belongs to. That's why I say it's not a caption. You want your captions to be assembled right near the image. So we don't know if this caption has to do with this image, or this image. It's remember proximity and placement from our course lecture. So you definitely want to make sure that the caption is there's no question that the caption represents the image. So that all has to do with proximity placement. Typically, we captions placed right near the element that you're captioning, okay? So each one of those would correspond to the image that they're captioning. So keep that in mind. Okay, so be sure you get those requirements in place. You want to get your asymmetrical design. You want to use white backgrounds, your size. Your imagery must come in contact with the edge of the page somewhere twice. You've got your beans bleeding here and here, so you've satisfied that requirement. Design must be combining images of the boxes and parts of the background and cropped. Don't put everything in a box, and we've got that, so that's good. And then finally, keep your image dominant, and you must use a grid using full color. So, all right, so recommendations for improvement. Right now, let's take a look at as I said, I think this is a mistake, placing this right in the dead center. I mean, you could even place it right over here, and that would improve. It would give you more versatility in the layout. Right now, you're stuck with this dead center, top to bottom. You're stuck using type here and here. So basically, what this is doing is it's separating the page right down the middle, and kind of impeding this kind of synergy that the elements have with the picture plane. Design in everyday life, that looks pretty good. It's really basic though. I want to show you an example. Here's a wonderful example of a great little design composition, typographic composition. So think about adding a little flair to the headline. Okay, the body copy is set pretty well. I think it's really easy to read. It's very inviting. Your leading and kerning are set beautifully here. One thing I would recommend here is watch your rags. You've got this angle right here. See that? That's not good. if you take a look at the course lecture, we talk about rags in there a little bit. So you want to adjust these rags. Basically, you don't want these huge differences between the shortest line and the longest line. Right now, it looks like the shortest line is about 2/3 as long as the longest line. So, and then we got this angle right here and this angle right here. So take a look at your rags, and you want to adjust those. These right now, I'm seeing an overwhelming tendency. So right now, you're at 8.5 by 11, but I can see that the document should be 7 by 15 or 15 by 7, right? It may behoove you to use a vertical orientation. Since the main object is tall and narrow, it might suffice to use a tall and narrow composition as opposed to using a short, wide composition to fit an image that's tall and narrow. Does that make sense? And then what it looks like is you're not really considering negative space in the composition. You've got these design everywhere you look. There's a little bit of negative space right here, but that doesn't seem like it's designed. It seems like more like that's leftover space. So right now you've got element here, here, got type here, got an element here, got an element here. So you're really not allowing negative space to be used as a design element as much as it's being used as a leftover space. I don't think you need all of these repetitive beans in the composition. Okay, other than that, I think that the caption area should be presented a little bit smaller. And I talked about that caption area too. So all right, those are my recommendations moving forward. Now, I do want to bring your attention to this composition. And I use this, if you've looked through some of the other critiques, you'll see that I use this composition for an example. And I think the reason I use it is because it's so darn effective. Let me go through this composition with you. So the designer has made a few really critical, good decisions. We see the circle in the image, right? The circle, that motif is taken right out of the image and used in a couple of different areas. We see it here, we see it here, here. We see little circles here. So those are all derived from this area using circles in the product itself. In the logo, we've got these 3 little circles here on the left side. Well, those are mimicked right here. So there's a really great continuation right there. We've got the everyday presented in brown. The brown was sampled from the coffee beans. It's also used as the stroke for these 3 images. Take a look at the width of everyday and the width of design. Those are identical to the width of the coffee machine. That's by design, not by chance. We also have the typeset is done very well. We also have these dots. Now, specifically, I want you to take a look at these vertical dots right here. And these are really wonderfully done because this mimics what we would see coming from the coffee machine dripping into the cup. So as you can see, this composition is based on elements that have been borrowed or somehow correspond to the main image. So you definitely want to start thinking about that in your work as well. Okay, so good start. If you have any questions at all, please let me know quickly so that we can get some changes by Sunday. But I definitely think that you should address all of these comments in the video, which may entail having to go through this video more than once, but so be it. But I'll tell you what, if you have any questions at all, or if I can provide clarity in any of the comments I've made in the last 8.5 minutes or so, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that. Okay, great start. And again, really super important to get with me quickly if you have any questions. Thank you very much.